Hello and welcome to African Voices platform. I'm Bailo Jallo. Earlier this week, we were at Rockingham Gate in Sheffield for a significant cultural moment as Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka visited Utopia Theatre's production of The Swamp Dwellers, his 1958 play directed by Dr Mojisola Kareem. His visit brought the playwright into the heart of an intimate new production exploring family, faith, land, migration, and the enduring pull of home. Professor Soyinka also joined audiences for a conversation about his life and work, before sitting down with young interviewers from African Voices platform for a rare intergenerational exchange. As official media partner for the production, African Voices platform was there to document the moment.
Professor Soyinka, I'm very honored to have met you face to face. I'm Dr. Ayamba from Ghana, but I'm myself living in Britain. You have done incredibly well. I've read so much about your literary works, and I'm very honored to have met you in person. My question really is, do you think, despite all the literary works that has taken place since you started, has it made any impact? Has it brought about any change in the way the West think about Africa? And has that changed any kind of decolonial way of thinking about how Africa has been set up in Western circles?
I always console myself by reminding myself that I'm the child of a teacher and a headmaster, and I think I have some of my father's genes in me. And also my mother's, who was also very argumentative and combative, and who was part and parcel of the women's uprising in Abeokuta when they chased off, shall we say, rather an unwanted monarch, the Laki of Abeokuta, twice, as a matter of fact. So I had that upbringing, that evolved temperament of contesting what I consider wrong notions. It is with me till today, no matter who holds that notion. And so, my first encounter with what you might call racist tendencies, it first took me back a little bit. And then it was not difficult for me to deal with it because, as we say in Yoruba, when I arrived, Ashiri want to sit up. Ashiri out trusted. It means all their gra vanished. They had the air of superiority, which they tried to inculcate, and which they succeeded in some places, some areas in Nigeria. Didn't have any impact on me whatsoever. I tell you, you have to imagine the shock I had of seeing dirty buildings. This is before clean-up environment consciousness began, long before. You walked those gray bricks, those cement bricks that you see today. There was no such thing. The bricks were inside, all right, but inside about 10 layers of filth, of dirt. The windows, even the quote-unquote skyscrapers, even Buckingham Palace, famed Buckingham Palace's Big Ben, went to all those structures. And the question was, why were they black? So just suited. And so these were people we dealt with who were, of course, running our lives and trying to tell us, what we were, what they thought we were. I just had to remind them that, listen, where I come from, if in any household we have been in any part of Nigeria. If the ground, the floor of the house is dirty and children are playing around, they'll get smacked properly. How dare you play when this is over here? I grew up in that kind of environment, and so I was able to get on that and say, this is how people live. That you blow your nose during that period, your handkerchief turns black. I do not exaggerate. The soot in the air, everything. And then on top of it all, they smelled. They smelled. Today, I suppose all kinds of things have happened, or maybe one has got used to it, but the hosts represented it on home ground. They had a smell it took a while to get used to. I imagine that maybe we also smelled to them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what I felt, what I experienced. And so for me, compared to the average visitor, the racist approach to African society, it was just like, how can these people be so arrogant and yet be? And I saw for the first time really poor, what they might call white trash in racist America, for instance. Really poor. We thought that everybody ate with a golden spoon on golden plate. That much I accept that. There was no poverty on the home ground. So coming to where you actually saw people sleeping on the streets next to trash bags and so on. I just said, you're talking about Africa. Have you walked along Soho? But when my studies began, then I was armed with more, with less subjective responses. And I was very lucky that I had what he himself used to call himself a pagan. One of my professors, his name was Bonami Dobre, and he was a medievalist. And he found such correlations between, let us say, the misericords of churches and the sculptures of other societies, not just of African society, of Asian, for instance, Chinese. I saw the cultures. I saw Japanese culture. I became fascinated by Japanese theater. So constantly I was finding correlations. I became less aggressive in no time at all. So on the one hand, it was a negative approach, responses. On the other hand, it was discourse, natural discourse. You have also people like G. Wilson Knight, the great Shakespearean, who's multicultural intellectually. So maybe I think I was very lucky to have interacted with people on the level of intellection, not just those you meet in the urinal, for instance, who say, why do people pee in Africa? How do you get up to your house in the street? You won't believe there were actually people like that. They were not being, funny or ugly. No, they actually were curious. It's not such a mixed bag, but I think I was very lucky and maybe grew up with a kind of what I was talking about yesterday, a kind of aesthetic plurality, an actual instinct towards syncretism of parallels, in one's environment. So I had a great time, and holidays especially were fun. I was a barman. I went to build houses in Holland during the holidays after the infamous flood. Most of us remember it. Literally half of Netherlands inundated. So I grew up, that was mixed with this, mixed with that. It was good fun. I hope you people, if there are students here, I hope you're having as good fun as I have.
My question to you, similar to last year when I was gifted this opportunity, is Do you still walk with your gun hunting?
Yeah, brother.
Do you still walk with your gun hunting? You don't have to answer that question.
You know, you asked the question which, before, a few years ago, up to a few years ago, you could, if there was nothing to eat in the house, most of the time I'm alone there, you just pick up my gun, go around the corner and I'm inside the bush right away. The god of hunters generally looks benignly on me. I come back with dinner. Just half an hour, 1 hour, I bring an aparo back at least. But now I must confess to you that if I tried that today, my children would put me in a mental institution. Apart from the likelihood of my stumbling and shooting myself, there is, seriously done, there is danger in the forest. You never know who you meet. So I still go in, but not as casually as I used to. When we go in, we go prepared for whatever is there. So we go in groups now.
Clear.
Before I could even get lost in the forest without bothering, asleep somewhere comfortable between a rock and maybe something. These days, you just cannot take that risk. So it's really, it's almost like a military move when we go hunting. And we're ready for whatever comes. That's very sad. Very sad.
There's one here, yes.
One here.
And then one here.
Good evening or good afternoon, sir. I'm so happy and honoured to see you again. My question is, and my name is Temi, by the way, my question is, a few years ago, I watched a YouTube interview where you said you will no longer be doing any interviews. And I just wanted to ask why you find it important to still do gatherings such as this, regardless of everything that you have given us already in terms of your words, your sacrifice, and all of that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have an echo in my hearing.
So, apparently she watched a YouTube video that says you will not be giving any more interviews, and she's wondering why is it important to still do an event like this, despite everything that you've written and everything that you've shared. So why are you here, basically?
I confessed at the beginning that I have my father's genes in me. I cannot resist, especially. I stay with grown-ups all the time, professionals and so on. So occasionally there's an opportunity to rub minds with young people, especially. So I'm a sucker for young minds. In August, I'm talking to a boot camp in, of all places, Italy. As if I have nothing better to do. But in the course of my movements, minding my own business, I run into requests and I say, okay, this last one, I just do this one. Look at you, for instance. You drag me here. I was sitting quietly, minding my own business. Just weak character.
We are grateful. Thank you so much.
Afternoon, sir. My name is Olivier Temo, and I'm the chief executive of Sadaka. Sadaka is a local community association here in Sheffield, the Sheffield and District African and Caribbean Community Association. I am extremely honored to be asking you this personal question. And the reason being is because I've followed your writing for many years, and I consider you as the greatest mathematician, not writer, the greatest mathematician that I have the privilege to ask this question. And the reason being is because in all your writing and the play that I've been privileged to watch, all complex question that's relevant, you made them very, very easy. And that's the essence of mathematics. Do you see yourself as a mathematician or as a writer?
Do I see myself
As a mathematician.
as a mathematician? I wonder if I know why you asked that question. I think it's either listened to an interview or has read the man my prison note. All right. Is that, do you want me to, is that seriously asked? Are you trying to tease me? I think he knows that in school, I was a proper Olodo. You know that. I not only detested mathematics, I detested mathematicians. What sort of subject is this? And how I got a C, those of you who know the system, you know it's A, C, then P. I mean, yeah. How I got a C will interest you. In mathematics, passing our parade, Cambridge Leaving School certificate, we had fail in English, fail in all. Fail in arithmetic or whatever, fail in all. So, what was I to do? And mathematics had 3 subjects: algebra, geometry, and arithmetic. I can't remember which came first, but although even I knew that. Zero. I didn't need anybody to tell me. The next one was algebra, and I think maybe bare pass or whatever. You had to see that left geometry. Fortunately, I think this maybe goes to the heart of your question. Fortunately, I like geometry. So it became a question of passing sufficiently in geometry to be able to compensate for the other 2 we can have. You know what I did? At night, I did what we call ghosting. Ghosting means you're supposed to be in bed. It's boarding school, government college, you're supposed to be in bed. And so you sneak out through the window, you go to the bathroom, an open place there without a lamp, and then you swat. So the night before the geometry, I went there. I crammed all the theories of geometry. So we got there, I tackled that section first. What I'd crammed, I didn't understand anything. I just put everything there. I did a few diagrams to pretend that I knew with the correlation between shapes and rhomboids and equilaterals and so I waited. When the results came out, I was already, of course, out of the school. I didn't even wait for the senior, the upper. Just let me get that C. That's all I wanted. So that way, it's exemption from matriculation. So something very complicated. I passed it. I went to my small library, took every mathematics book, wrong out of the way, played soccer with the books, and so on. But then, when I got in prison detention, in solitary confinement, no books, no nothing, I decided, well, if I can just begin, go back to geometry, recover those formulae and so on, then move on from there and start working on permutations and combinations, etc. And that's part of how I kept saying in prison, just tackling that subject which I loathed, in school. And it was very good for sanity, trying to work out impossible formula, equations, etc., all by yourself from scratch. A kindergarten child who could have whipped me thoroughly during that process. So learning the whole thing from the very beginning. And I concluded that it was the teacher's fault. They didn't know how to teach me.
So, Professor, in your play, the first time I watched it was yesterday. It was very, very good. And there were lots of different themes on power, and I know you have some on like post-colonial Nigeria and conflicts, family, and different topics like that. But I was wondering, what is the one topic that you wanted to be most represented in the play, and why?
That's a very difficult question because so many impulses are beating on your imagination, sometimes several at the same time. But I think what struck me most, what really pushed me to write the play, especially the way it is the prospect, the projection of kind of, I don't want to use the word national because we're not even a nation at the time, we were a protectorate, if you like, we hadn't got independence. But a community of people, what it is, what does it take when you have a multicultural, multi-historic beginning, culture, of course, and even associates outside your immediate boundary. What is it that makes it possible to retain that plurality and at the same time have a sense of unity of balance? In other words, where you balance what is, where you take what you have in excess, as represented by the forested areas, for instance, and then you have the shortage, other items. And how does it actually express itself? How does it impact on the humanity that actually delineates what you call a nation? I think that was very much, remember it was just pre-colonial, I mean, post-colonial rather. And so that I think would be what I would choose for now. I might change my mind tomorrow.
You, quickly.
I haven't watched the play, but I've read it. And while you were writing the play, I was wondering if there was a particular way you planned it, or you organized how you were going to put each of the themes into it. Because I feel like it's a very difficult thing to just write a play. So I was wondering how exactly you went about it.
That's true. That's a very large question. Very large question. Let's try and understand it by saying that by that time, when I wrote that young play, I had already discovered that I was more inclined towards the theatrical, dramatic way of expressing my experiences, my anticipations, my, shall we say, even my insecurity at the time. But I had definitely found that I was more at home with the theatre, mostly because I suppose I love images, and on stage what you're doing is creating images with human beings on stage, whose interaction provide different setting, emotional, graphic, and so on. And that's what attracted me to theatre. So when you ask that kind of question, I find it difficult to say exactly why I use a particular mode for the theatre. I suppose the subject dictates itself.
You've been listening to African Voices platform. Today we reflected on Professor Wole Soyinka's visit to Utopia Theatre's The Swamp Dwellers in Sheffield, his Q&A on life and work, and his interview with AVP's Young Voices. It was a meaningful encounter between one of Africa's greatest literary voices and a new generation engaging with his legacy. Until next time, thank you for listening, and Bailo Jalo.